Welcome back to Hybrid Wargaming and let's talk Mordheim. Here we're gonna talk about miniatures, rules and everything that's awesome about everyone's favorite game. So, following the video regarding the 5 best, top, at least in my opinion, narrative warbands, we're gonna take a look at the 5 best competitive warbands. Now, I know, Mordheim is not a competitive game, even though I will argue that it can be, and it is, if you make adjustments for it. We'll talk about that in a later video. So we're going to take a look at the top 5, but it is important to remember that Mordheim in its base is not a competitive game. Nor should you make it so unless your gaming group agreed to go all out, use all the best stuff, and that everyone agrees with it, or you're actually going to Mordheim as a tournament game. So with that said, let's take a look at the top 5. Now, my criteria for this is holding them to 1A, 1B, and 1C. Because when you go over to 2, then you actually do get some cheesy stuff that some of the 1 warbands really can't compete with. Now, regarding pushing 1C warband on Broheim, sorry I forgot, we're looking at the Broheim warbands. If you go to 1C, there's really not much of an edge to those warbands compared to the 1A and 1B. Aside from 1 warband, which you will find at the top of this list, which is, in my opinion, by far the best competitive warband that you will find. So my other criteria is as follows. How good are they early campaign, and can they keep up once the campaign gets going? Number 2 is availability with skills, ceiling when it comes to stats. And the last one is ease of use. How much do you need to keep track of, and how simple is it to explain the rules to your opponent, keeping track of them yourself? Because let's face it, if you have to explain absolutely everything with a lot of convoluted rules, it's not going to be fun for you or the other guy. At number 5, we find, no surprise really, Skaven. The lovable furballs are at number 5 on this list, because they can master, almost master, all aspects of the game. They got numbers, they got ranged, they got melee, and they can pretty much do it all fairly well to very well. In addition, their leader, in my opinion, is the best leader you will find in the game. Now, the Skaven are one of the original warbands from the Mordheim core book, and they pack a good punch from start to finish in a league or in a tournament setting. In addition, they have one of the more impressive big guys in the game in the Rat Ogre with a rocking stat line. His only downfall is that he doesn't gain XP, and he might be caught doing nothing unless you have another hero babysitting him. Now, I will note that the infamous Skaven sling spam is not the reason they are here, as sling spam is not really that hard to counter or deal with, and I feel that the sling spam is an OP myth, is something that stems from a time long gone when we didn't have a lot of terrain or debris to hide behind, and we were pretty much just using the start box houses and potted plants as our terrain. No, the rats are here because they have numbers, they have skills, they're fairly easy to use. Now, at number 4, we have my favorite warband, the Beastmen. I mean, they got the fur, they got the hooves, and they have milk. That last one is probably not useful in Mordheim. Jokes aside, the Beastmen are my favorite warband to play, as they rock a very good stat line to start out with. They can start with a full warband made out of average range movement, high toughness, and can even start with a Minotaur that can gain experience. Now, these guys, in all fairness, have 2 warbands. 1 Beastman Old, and 1 Beastman that is the one that you will find in Broheim under 1A. Now, the older version that you're going to have to search for is completely broken and would walk all over any other warband, so we're not going to be taking a look at that one. The 1A version is still one of the better ones you will find. With good heroes, they have a high ceiling and they have access to good skills. The Centaur alone is worth his own weight in silver as a living battering ram. The only real downside they have is that they have slightly low leadership value, limited access to equipment, and the Centaur might end up being drunk and doing absolutely nothing. But with the latter being a random chance, I feel that it's worth taking him because when he's not drunk, he is an absolute monster. Now you can go with a full warband with decent gear and saves and have up to 9 miniatures to start off with, or you can forego that and have your 5 heroes, a regular henchman, and the Minotaur to start out with. Both are very good options, but you need to be careful as most of the warbands punch, if you choose the Minotaur option, is very expensive minis and they're hard to replace if they die. At number 3, we have human warband, though more specifically the Pit Fighters, the old version. Now, have you ever seen Gladiator or the Spartacus TV series? Go do that, then you want to come back and play the Pit Fighters, I guarantee it. Like the Beastmen, they have 2, one old and one revised. The older version is not as ridiculously overpowered as the Beastmen though. So for this entry, this is the one we're looking at. Now, I'm not saying the newer version is bad, it's just much more limited and expensive to kit, and even if the pursuers in the revised Pit Fighters warband are the best henchmen you will find in the game in my opinion, they don't make up for the other limitations. The Pit Fighters old warband, however, now that is a melee goodness. All of them start with the Pit Fighter skill. That alone gives them a head start on everybody else. They have a very powerful leader, Dwarf Slayer, and Pit Veterans that are decent, alongside the 2 noob heroes that are there to generate Wordstone for you. And they're one of the few warbands that can start with 6 heroes. And then we get the real goodness, the Ogre Pit Fighter. Ogre stats, Ogre maximum stat line, cheaper than other big guys, and has the Pit Fighter skill and can gain experience. And he can become a hero. Granted, he does so at half speed, but with the skills he already has and can get, and the equipment available to this warband, he is an absolute beast. Now, speaking of equipment, this version of the Pit Fighters warband have access to some of the most awesome gear, coolest and unusual gear you will find in Mordheim. War chains topping that chart. And then we have the skills. I mean, aside from the skills that you would figure for a melee warband, the leader also have academics, giving your melee guys some brains to go with all that brawn. And the special skills they have are okay, with one standing out by far, namely the skill Force of Will. At number 2, we have Lizardmen. Didn't see that one coming, did you? They have speed, they have toughness, they have decent options for gear and weapons, and their sacred markings. Now granted, not all of these come on one miniature, they will need to split that up. Not to mention that you can mix all of this and rock 20 miniatures in total, and all of them are pretty inexpensive considering their stat line, and they will most likely never run away unless you really want them to due to their cold-blooded rule. If they go onto the battlefield, they will stay there until you say enough, or they're going to win by attrition. Now, all warband members of a Lizardmen warband have an armor save to begin with that can't be reduced beyond a certain number. And the only way around that is if you get crits by something that says no armor save, or a weapon that allows no armor save. Now, they have a skink priest leading them, and he has a very good spell list that he has access to, and all of them are useful from the start of the game. And at number 1, and it's not really even close, we have the Norse explorers of 1C. Yes, a badass crew of angry Norse coming at you. When you first look at them, they don't really stand out that much. Until you take a really good look. Then you realize the only weakness they have is that they are limited to human stats. Aside from that, the leader is a good one at the points, with a decent weapon skill, strength, and 2 attacks to begin with. The bondsmen are your run-of-the-mill noob heroes that are there to create gold for you and to hide in the shadows and maybe come out and stab somebody if the opportunity presents itself. Now the berserkers, while still just human, they're bound to whatever max stats that will be, but the inclusion of frenzy gives them the edge up. With frenzy you double the number of attacks on the profile, they're immune to psychology, and they have a good weapon skill and strength value. And then we have the heavy lifter, the absolute monster of the warband, the Ulfanar. Now, I said earlier that the Skavens had the best leader in the game. Well, in this miniature, the Ulfanar, you will find the best model in the game, bar none. The whole stat line is absurd, bar the leadership value. But it doesn't really matter, as he's immune to psychology anyway. And at his price range, you will not find anything that will stand against him. And then we have the henchmen. And then I'm thinking of the marauders in particular. With a good weapon skill and decent stats to start out at a decent price, they will fill out the rest of your warband in addition to your 6 starting heroes. So the weapon that I was talking about that you want to give everyone, that would be maces. Maces are cheap, they have decent rules, and the crit table for them, if you're using the alternative crit table, which you should because it's very fun, is absolutely the best one. Now the Norse make the top of the list due to the heroes, the relatively cheap henchmen, Ulf, and the amount of minutes they can put on the board and their ease of use. Not much to think about, just get into melee and smash something. All depending on the event or league you will be playing in, other factors might change things up. One of the big ones is if you're allowed to use drugs and poisons. If that is allowed, this list changes somewhat, but it also puts the Norse further ahead. Ulf will go from being an insane model to a frickin' cruise missile on steroids, and bar bad rolls, there's really nothing stopping him. But there also lies the end of all competitive warbands and armies of any game. There's no cure for bad luck or poor dice rolls, so even the best of warbands in Mordheim, you will still need a bit of luck to get ahead. Because if you're Norse, or pit fighters, or Lizardmen, if everything you get when leveling up is leadership and initiative, you will most likely get left behind. And that really brings us back to the most important aspect of any game, specifically Mordheim, I would say. Just have fun.